What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what's going on with other factors involved in the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening with the markets. Looking at SPY right now, this thing is still holding it very, very nicely within this range. It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter as time goes on, which does imply a bigger move is coming. Now, even though it is possible for SPY to try to push a little higher, depending on the data we get for tomorrow, I want to note that ultimately I see a move to the downside coming. So whether we pop a little bit higher, it is possible we try to fill an imbalance up to the upside before we start to drop much lower to 515 or below that, or we could even just start dropping from here depending on the data, but I do see a move to the downside coming. Whether we get one more pop or not will depend on different factors, but that is my general view of the market for the time being. So I'm going to talk more about these trends in just a few minutes, but I first want to break down some more data. So as a reminder, tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. At 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the NFIB Business Optimism Index report coming out. Could affect the market to some extent, but it's not going to be that crazy. However, I think that we're going to see more volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time when we have the Economic Optimism Index report coming out. So that's going to be a little bit more important about the current sentiment in our economy. We'll see what happens 30 minutes after the market opens for volatility. Then at 11:38 a.m., we have the 42-day bill auction coming out. At 1 p.m., we have the 3-year notes auction. So all this could cause some volatility. We want to see what this ends up causing. When it comes to other factors involving the markets, for Tuesday, we also have some earnings like WD-40 coming out later on. Just a couple of them. Everything else is going to be very minor, like Delta and etc. However, by Friday is when we have JP Morgan Chase, we have Wells Fargo, we have BlackRock, and some big bank earnings coming out. So I'll be listening to see what this ends up causing moving forward. For the markets, I just want to remind everyone that right now we're still at greed. We're still seeing buyers dominate the market, at least for the time being, but the sellers have stopped the buyers from trying to break certain resistance levels. So it's kind of like a battle where each side has their own victories. However, I just want to note that SPY has not broken some critical resistance levels yet to really start pushing. So we're going to be watching to see how it ends up reacting to some very, very critical levels. Now, moving forward, market momentum is still greedy. Other indicators are still at extreme greed as usual, and the put and call positioning is going up even more as we're starting to see more puts being bought in the markets. On top of all of this, we have market volatility. This is dipping a little bit as the VIX has seen a move to the downside, but it hasn't lost its 50 daily moving average. So there is still potential for this to go even higher. We just have to give this a little bit more time. Besides that, I just want to call out other indicators before I break down these charts. So looking at SPY, I just wanted to say that when we zoom out right over here, I'm going to pull up the daily time frame just to show you guys something else that's very important. On the daily for SPY, like this, you guys can see that SPY is still not looking that great. We had this very, very big looking red bar. It's trying to rebound a bit, but you want to be very careful with this because if the top is in right here and this thing's about to start a downtrend, that could be a lot more impactful. Also looking at the MACD, this is also looking a little bit more bearish. So SPY is in a very, very critical place on its daily time frame. When we zoom out, we zoom in a little bit more, don't forget that on the 4-hour time frame, this is also showing some signs of potential downtrend that could be coming. This kind of looks like a head and shoulders that formed right here. And on top of the head and shoulders, this could be getting ready for a big shift. So with this forming, the overall trend is actually a bit more to the downside. Yes, we do need, we need a bit more confirmation to say that, but the trend has been favoring the downside a little bit more for the overall picture. So for tomorrow specifically, I want to call out some very important levels. SPY has resistance right now at 520. If we break past 520, we could try to fill this imbalance at 522. And if we lose support at 518.69, well, this thing could easily fall to 517.5 or so. And if that fails us, there's 516.5, 515. And then if we lose that, we can come all the way down to 512 all over again. So what do I think is going to happen? Honestly, guys, it depends on how we end up reacting to all this data that's coming out. For Tuesday, we have some very minor data, but then for Wednesday, we also have CPI coming out for Wednesday. So I'm going to be expecting some high volatility very soon. But what I think is going to likely happen is this move is going to, the stock is going to come down very soon. I see some downside coming on SPY. I think it's going to be falling to at least 515 soon. But I don't know if we're going to just remain in this range first and then drop, or if we're going to get one more push. We could get one more push up higher because of these market makers grabbing liquidity. If that happens, I'll be looking for any divergences or anything like that. We're getting very tight right now, so this is very, very indecisive for now. And we're seeing our overall Bollinger Bands kind of contract a little bit. So that kind of tells us that a big move is coming. I think it is possible that this thing tries to break 520 and gets one more push to fill this imbalance. Either way, from like 520 or maybe a little higher is where this thing is going to likely peak. And I still anticipate a move to the downside as a very, very big possibility. I'm not sure if we're going to fail to break 520 and then drop from here, or if we're going to try to break it for one more push and then we end up breaking down. But either way, I do see a move to the downside. I find that to be very, very probable, and we just have to wait and see for the time being. The reason why it's a little hard to tell is because SPY is very indecisive. It was going back and forth all day, and either way, it is possible that it tries to go a little higher and then dips, or it just dips from here. So just wait and see, and we'll see our levels just to be safe, especially for tomorrow. Let's see if SPY can try to break 520 one more time, try to fill this imbalance. It came kind of close, but kind of struggled so far. And then if it does do so, the move to the downside is expected, or it could just drop from here. For the QQQ, I'm seeing something very similar. We have this resistance at our 200 EMA at 442. We have support at 440, and then we have 438 below that and 436. We also have resistance at 442 followed by 444, and also this imbalance all the way up to about 445.25. So from the way I see everything, we're kind of range bound right now. We've been going back and forth on the QQQ. It's also very indecisive. So I would say to just watch which way it breaks for now. It was just barcoding for the majority of the day, not really doing anything. It's just kind of stuck. So I would say just give it some time. Let's see which way this thing tries to break and what CPI causes. But either way, let me just make it clear. The QQQ looks even more bearish than SPY once you zoom out of the chart like this. If you look at this trend, we're slowly downtrending on the QQQ, right? Back in during the third week of March, this thing was at 450, came down made a lower high, came down made a lower high, came down made a lower high, came down. It's so far making a lower high. So, in my opinion, whether we get a big break to the upside or not, it's kind of irrelevant. I see the move to the downside coming eventually. Could we push to 444 and then start sinking all the way down to 436? Yes, we can. Or we could even just kind of like retest 442 and then start sinking to 436. Either way, I see a move to the downside coming. Just not sure if we get one more break to the upside first before the move comes or not. And the reason I'm not too sure is because it depends on which way we break, as we're very tight right now. And when the market gets very tight, it could go either way. So just give it some time first, see which way we break, and then get ready to see what the move is. If we break to the upside, I don't think the move is going to last extremely long. We're eventually going to come back down in a few days, or it could just drop from here. So this is offering a lot more opportunities. Now, unlike the market, with the new news about with the new news about Elon Musk announcing that Tesla is going to be unveiling the robotaxi, the share price is on a bit of an uptrend right now, still pushing up higher. And I see some potential for this thing to go all the way up to 175. If this breaks, look for 177.6. I see some potential for Tesla to go higher. We also have a double bottom like structure that is developing. And if that breaks, 180 is also a real possibility. I would not rule that out for Tesla. This could outperform the market temporarily, but later on, depending on CPI, that's going to cause a big move as well. But as of right now, Tesla is looking a bit more bullish. We could be looking for 175, if not a little bit higher for now. The news will affect it, of course, but for now, the chart is still favoring 175 plus, and we'll see if we could break through that or not. I do want to warn you, though, that Tesla is approaching some tough resistance the closer we get to 180. So anything above 175 to 180 is where we have some tough resistance. Tesla rejected a couple of times for the last couple of weeks off this range, so just be very, very careful, and we'll see how Tesla goes from here. But let's see if we can hold it at 200 EMA, and can Tesla break 175? If it does so, we could be looking for another push. For Nvda, in my opinion, Nvidia is looking kind of weak compared to like Tesla because, firstly, we have this big head and shoulders like structure to be noting, right? We have this head right here. We have a left shoulder and we have our right shoulder. And on top of this, we're really struggling because it has this weird trend where it kind of pops a bit in the daytime, then starts dropping, and we could see something very similar again. In my morning video, I called out 892 to be tested and then a rejection or even a breakthrough that could push it to about 900. Instead, what happened is we came just short of 892 and kind of rejected a bit. So watch resistance at 872 and 877. Watch support at 862. My gut tells me it might kind of pop a bit, retest our 20 to 50 EMAs, eventually make our way back down lower for another pop and drop like move. So look in the daytime for Nvidia to try to bounce and make its way up to about 880 or so. Could go a little higher than that, 885. And then I think that just like what we saw today, it'll pop a bit, trade sideways, and eventually starts to slow down. So watch for that very, very carefully. On top of all of this, I just wanted to talk about Aapl. Aapl has support at 168.25. And then we also have resistance at 169. And above that, we have 169.35 and then 170. With this falling wedge-like structure developing on Aapl, there's a very good chance it might try to rebound and make its way up to about 169.35. Trade sideways up here, then eventually start breaking down to 168. So I'm seeing some potential for Aapl to continue to dip as the trend is looking a bit more bearish. So it might retest this liquidity. It loves to kind of pop in the daytime. This happened about 4 or 5 times in a row before it started to fall. So for example, like right here, it kind of popped a little bit in the pre-market, then it dropped. Here it popped in again on Wednesday, then dropped, popped again on Thursday, then dropped. Friday it popped and dropped. Today it popped and dropped. So it loves to do that. Look for a little pop again into this liquidity zone and then a drop as well back down to 168. The overall trend is bearish and we'll see how it goes from there. With that being said, guys, that is it for the main 5 I typically go over. Let's just talk about what's happening with the rest of the charts. So Palantir, it's showing some life. It's very, very tight right now. Support at 23, resistance at 23.5. I think right now it's very indecisive, going sideways, and it's been stuck like this for 2 days. But it's on a slight uptrend, so it is possible this goes a little higher to about 23.5. Trade sideways at the 50 EMA, and we'll see if we get a big rejection back down to 22.8. Or if we break through this, my gut tells me it might actually reject. For Super Micro, this is looking, in my opinion, a little bit more on the bearish side because it's continuing to make lower highs and lower lows. And we're currently just barely holding this 920 support. So if we lose this, we could be sinking towards our 200 EMA. If you lose 920, look for about 872. Well, actually watch 900, then 872. For resistance, make sure you watch around 9. We basically have 930 as one resistance, followed by 950, and then 980 above that. Overall, the trend is a bit more bearish. We're making lower highs and lower lows. We're continuing to sink. And watch 872 as key support. We could end up testing this, so I see some potential downside as a real possibility. So that's what I'm seeing for Supermicro for the time being. For Rivian, Rivian is actually going to be retesting 10.42. Also have 10.73 as resistance. And for support, we have 10.2 followed by 10 flat. So looking at Rivian, I would say that there's a downtrend off this head and shoulders, and we're looking a little bit more weak as of right now. So what I find to be very likely is we are on a downtrend, but we could actually push a little higher because how the 4 hour is looking right here. And also we hit $10, exactly what I predicted would happen. We'd hit 10 and see some buyers defend it. That's what happened. That's what I said yesterday. So I think what might happen is the buyers could try to push it a little higher to this imbalance. I could see 10.6 coming, but it might not last up here for too long. 10.6 to 10.8 can be tested, then a move back down will likely come once we hit our resistance at the 50 EMA. So we're getting kind of like what you could call a dead cat bounce sort of on this. It is on an overall downtrend, but it's trying to rebound just temporarily because of how much it dropped. SoFi is showing some life. We're approaching 7.8. I did call out a potential inverse head and shoulders. If we manage to close above 7.8 and hold above that, we're going to be looking for a nice move back up towards the 8s. Maybe the big bank earnings could affect it. So I'm seeing some life on this chart, but we have to try to continue to break above 7.8 and continue pushing. For AMD, AMD is still kind of bearish, but we're going to be looking for a bounce back up to 173. The overall trend has been dropping. It's showing that it's dropping and dropping and dropping. Still looking kind of weak. If we lose 165, look for a bigger dip to 160. And if we hold above 170, look for 173 to be tested, followed by 177. My gut is telling me that this thing it drops so hard to the point where it's oversold. And we're also forming like a bullish divergence right now. So I could see this thing attempt to push up towards the 20 EMA again. So I think it might attempt to rebound, but we need some more confirmation first as we're getting tighter. It may either trade sideways in this range, or it might just trade sideways and bounce. Either way, I see a move to about 173 coming. For ARM, looks a bit more bullish. We broke past our 50 EMA. Going Going to be looking for a push to 130. If we break this, we could be pushing all the way up right here, about 134, 132.5 to 134. It looks bullish so far. Coinbase is kind of in the middle right now. We did gap up a bit, but be careful since we're at resistance at this 262 area. If we lose support at 251, we're going to be sinking all the way down to fill this gap. If we break past 260, we could be looking for a bigger push all the way up to about 265. Otherwise, we're still kind of stuck in this range where we have this range right here between 250 and 260. We've been stuck here for quite some time today, and we may end up continuing to do so. I think tomorrow it might retest 253, and we'll see if we get a big bounce or not. And I'll be very, very patient just to see the direction. But as of right now, it still is holding up nicely. It's showing some strength. Amazon got a decent close just above its key resistance. Now that we're above that, we're going to be looking to see if we can rebound to 186 tomorrow, if not 187. If we lose 180, 185, look for 183.43 as support. Overall, I'm seeing some signs that's slowing down a bit. Could pop again to 186 and eventually make its way back down later on to 184. But just to be safe, let's wait for confirmation. I think it might actually pop a little bit then drop lower because of the fact that it's contracting right here. So we're going to be looking to see Amazon pop and drop. We're seeing a little bit of weakness there. Meta is showing some weakness as well. We're barely at 520. We'll see if we rebound a little bit to retest 522. But I see a potential move to about 514 coming. So look and see if we end up getting that drop. There is potential in Meta to dip a little bit, and we'll see if we bounce or not. Microsoft is trading sideways for now. Going to be looking to see if we could try to retest 426 and then reject and come back down to about 423.5, then back up. So I see a move like that being very, very probable. For Google, we're on a bit of an uptrend. We're trying to push right now. If we try to break through 157, this resistance right here, we could be looking for a move all the way back up towards, we could get very close to 160 again. So it looks kind of bullish. We're going to be looking for a push for at least 158 and 160. Looks good so far. For the VIX is showing some weakness. We're barely holding our 20 EMA at 15.16. If we lose this, 14.5 is coming. And for this, if this does end up rejecting like this could mean because the market may actually push a little higher. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Will the market push hard to cause the VIX to drop? I'm going to be very, very patient. For the dollar index, the dollar is continuing to sink. It looks like it might end up testing 103.98, suggesting the market might push a little bit higher. So there might be some more upside coming to SPY in the QQQ temporarily, but ultimately and later on, I still think there's going to be a move to the downside. So maybe SPY does push to 520, maybe goes a little bit higher, 522 or so, and then we drop down later on. That's a strong possibility, in my opinion. I still hold that same view as before, based off how tough it is to break 524 and what we've seen in previous trends and these other indicators. So we'll see, guys. Just watch 520 as resistance just to be safe. We'll see how things go. And with that being said, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. The market may pop a little bit more, but eventually I see a rug pull coming. It may take a couple of days. Or if we fail to break 520 on SPY, we could just get the rug pull from here. I'll just wait and see, guys. I'm a very, very patient trader, so just be patient. Let's see what the moves are. Watch your ranges, watch supply and demand, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning on the next one. Thank you for listening. The market's to the moon because the long term is very bright despite these short-term fluctuations, and peace out.